Hello everybody, welcome back to La Cerise, our beautiful little French town, now a great town. Sorry to give you the non-cinematic mode, I'll go right back. Okay, yes, back in this beautiful sunset view. We are back in this lovely city, and we have taken to the sea. Last episode, we built a new extension of Rotterdam-sur-la-Seine, which is this little canal district over here, and I built out this little area over here, and of course this road extension in which I built a passenger harbor. Isn't that awesome? And I would say it's working, but it actually isn't yet, and that's because well, if you'll kindly take a look at the map tiles, the freaking ship extension is, how do I show this? It is 1,000,000 trillion miles away, all the way over here, and I did not quite have enough tiles to get there. So I'm going to wait until I reach the next milestone to formalize that connection. But for now, we just have a nice little harbor, which a bunch of cars are parking in for some reason. I don't really know why. I think a parking fee would be in order. Maybe people are just parking there because there's parking, which I kind of don't really want happening. Yeah. But anyways, that's not the point of this video. This episode, we are doing something big. We are making big expansions. So you see how much demand we have for, heck, every kind of residential. I decided today we are going to capitalize on it. We are going to do some major expansion. And so I've looked all over, and you know, we have forest crossing over here, but I really want to expand the main city this time. So I've already expanded a bit into the sea, and if you'll look here, it is quite steep. So I don't know if I'll be expanding out there for quite a while. You know, there's mountains this way. There's, I guess there's a little bit over here that we could do. And also I want to save this for a university. And so really, we are going to expand into this area. And this episode, I'm really going to try to go for a Parisian road layout. That's right. We're, for this part of town, we are going to ditch the loosey-goosey roads everywhere, drawn for horses type of road layout, and instead embrace a more modern street pattern that is very resemblant of Paris, Washington, D.C., and other cities like that. So, without further ado, I say, let's get into time-lapse. Alright, so jumping in, I knew I wanted this to be right in this part of town on this little avenue leading up to Sous la Colline. So I just started off by drawing out this avenue as a sort of main center road, and I just drew out every road branching off of it in true Parisian fashion. And so it's going to be a very radial road design, which I think is going to be a very cool thing to try out. You know, that being said, it couldn't be a perfect radial design because of course we had some crazy hills to contend with up in this area. So I had to do a little bit of working around, but honestly the hills didn't turn out to be too big of an issue when I worked on the roads. I just had to, you know, it just couldn't be perfectly symmetrical, which I was fine with having. And I didn't want to completely flatten out the land here. I just felt like it wouldn't make sense. I wanted to respect at least a couple of the hills and, you know, have them inform the road layout, because I think that's fun. I think it's fun when the roads respect the land. I mean, you know, San Francisco's cool with the whole grid on top of it, but that's not what I'm going for here. I'm going for a hyper planned out road layout, but one that is respective of the environment. I want it to reflect, well, I don't want it to reflect the environment per se, but I want it to at least echo it a little bit, even though it's kind of hyper planned out. So anyways, I drew out some fractal patterns, branching out in every direction. I mainly focused in this episode on going this direction across from the railroad, because I wasn't really sure how I was going to deal with the other side of the road, because, well, there was this crossing. So I just drew out the avenue and decided I'd come back to it later. I drew out a couple roads still branching out, but then, yeah, that was going to be difficult. So it was a task for another day for sure. Here I tried to connect up a road from Sous la Colline in a natural way up to this new Parisian style district. And I did have to delete this weird curve I put in the road, because I wanted this to kind of cleanly merge. Well, not merge. I want this to have like a clean gradient into this Parisian district. I want it to sort of blend together at least a little bit, even though these are completely different designs of building this city. And that's something that I'm going to have to contend with a lot in this city, I'm realizing, because I do plan to try a bunch of different styles of European architecture. So we've already got this, kind of early European city vibe that we have at the beginning. We've got the kind of Dutch canal system at the bottom in Rotterdam-sur-le-Seine, and now we've got this Parisian district. But I do have a lot of other ideas. I want to create a kind of Barcelona super block area. I would love to create a little commie block maybe, and finally use some high density residential. And yeah, I think it would be great to have. Oh, and also I want to create like a small business district, kind of like La Défense in Paris, or I don't know, because I know European cities usually don't have skyscrapers, but it is nicer to have than lower density office buildings, and B, there are some cities in Europe that have them. Actually, most have at least one or two, but they have them in like strategic parts, like how London has it in certain parts of the Thames, or Paris has that one quarter that's like kind of far away from town. And so unlike American cities, I don't want the core business districts with all the skyscrapers. That's not going to be in the center of town. I'm going to build that in some kind of not as central location. But anyways, this is all to say that I am going to have to reckon with all these different styles and districts throughout my city. And I'm going to have to try to really make it feel like they're connected to the same city. I don't want them to all, they're going to look different, but I want them to all have a general character about them. So that'll be a challenge for sure. It was now that I decided I wanted to delete at least this chunk of the main avenue, and create this cool little, diamond roundabout, I guess you could call it. It's a roundabout on a roundabout, I guess. And in this kind of square that I created, I was determined to put in some kind of park. I created some pedestrian areas too in certain parts, just to keep that nice. And then I looked at the landmarks and saw that the Botanical Garden actually fit perfectly. So I decided instead of a city park, I'd put something a bit more important, and I'd plop that down. It was expensive. It was like, what, 1.6 million? And I think I used all the money that I got from my previous level up into Great Town. But that's okay, because, first off, we were halfway to the next checkpoint anyways. And I thought it would be good to finally start investing in some tourism, because a lot of European cities, especially Paris, I think that's the number one most visited city in the world, or at least it was at a certain point. And so I think having a centerpiece at this crazy intersection would be crucial. The one thing I don't like about it is that it has this ugly ass parking lot in the front. And honestly, that's a complaint I have with a lot of the assets in this game. They all have these unnecessary parking lots. Like, I wish there was a way, like, I wish, you know how the buildings are upgradable? I wish there was a way you can add the parking lot if you wanted it. But if you didn't want it, you could just leave it. Because, like, it really mars the view for a bit, but it's okay. I do think the Botanical Garden still looks good. We're just gonna have to look past that there's a little bit of a parking lot in the front. Oh well. Also, I'm realizing now that even though there's a parking lot in the front, no one's gonna be able to use it because I'm pretty sure the road in front of it is a pedestrian road, so oh well, sorry. I then also plopped 2 small plazas on the sides just to give it a bit more character. And, you know, it was a bit weird. The first one I plopped had a fountain, but the second one didn't. I don't know if that's like a thing that, like, you know, maybe only some small plazas generate fountains or some don't. I don't know. But anyways, I decided to keep it for now, but maybe I'll change that. The asymmetry bothers me a little bit because the rest of this is extremely symmetrical. But oh well. So I drew out some paths, kind of reflecting the branching radial design of the streets. And yeah, I thought it looked really cool. And it definitely helped out the weird parking lot looking part in the front, taking attention away from that, which is definitely what I wanted to do. And then I tried to freehand a circle here, which took a couple tries, but eventually I got it. And it's, you know, maybe if you look at it closely enough, it's not a perfect circle, but I was happy with it. So I then did what I do every single episode, and I came in with that line tool and went absolutely berserk. I put rows of trees, rows of bushes, and every kind, you know? And, you know, here is actually one of the parts of the city that it actually does make sense. Maybe I do say this every time, but it does make sense here. And that's because, you know, it's a botanical garden, right? They would have, of all places, they would have a crazy line of bushes and trees set up in this ornamental fashion. It would just make sense. And yeah, I really wanted to make this a really nice area too. So I plopped down a bunch of trees. I think those are apple trees. I don't know why I went for apple trees, but I thought they ended up looking really nice. And then, of course, in this circular courtyard, I had to do some circular bushes. It's one of my favorite things. So I did just that. I chose different bushes at different distances and created these little circles and plopped a little, I think that was a spruce tree in the middle. Yeah. Then I decided to line these tree lines with smaller bushes just to give it that extra little oomph. And weirdly, it started snowing in the fall, and also only some of the trees caught the snow and some of the bushes didn't, and so it looked a bit weird while I was doing it, but we're just gonna have to push through. But yeah, I thought the bushes ended up giving it a lot more of a planned out look, a lot more of a fleshed out look. It looked a lot cleaner is what I'm trying to say. And then I noticed, oh, well, shit, there's parking everywhere. And I don't really want that in this gorgeous part of the city. So I decided to basically completely get rid of it and instead put grass and trees on the sides of all the roads. Yeah, I will I will completely eliminate parking. I don't care. It's just so ugly. It's so ugly. And, you know, if you need to park your car, well, I'm sorry, but use public transport. And I do say that our public transport actually is not the best right now, but that will soon change, because with this huge development, we are going to get a huge influx of people. And because of this, I am definitely going to have to focus on A, getting these people jobs, and B, getting them to their jobs, and ideally not with a car. So looking at the district, I was pretty happy with most of it, but then I kept noticing these trains were just stopped right before this road. So I decided, all right, I'm gonna do it again. And by do it again, I mean I was going to sink the railroad tracks to go under the road again, which I know I do like literally every episode, but I just the at level junctions just kind of suck, because the trains like sometimes stop for cars and stuff, and it's just like I don't want that to happen. So I decided to try to completely eliminate that interference and try to make it as clean of a change as possible for the cars and the train, and I thought it turned out okay. And I used the ramp tool instead of using the smooth tool. I used the ramp tool to clean up the sides for some reason. I don't know why I did this, but I guess I wanted a bit more of a gradual hill up. Anyways, it was now that I decided, well, heck, I've detailed out the garden, Botanical Garden, but now it's time for me to detail some of the blocks that I've created. So I started putting down some paths in the middle of each block to give people a bit more walkability between each block and really make this neighborhood feel a bit more cohesive. I tried to be careful to not create new crosswalks with these paths, because when that happens, all hell breaks loose. Literally all of your zoning will be fucked for no reason. I don't know why this happens, but it just happens every time. I don't know why. But usually I'm able to repair it before the building gets destroyed. It'll get condemned, but I can usually stop it before anything bad happens. I saw that there is actually quite a bit of room in this one block, because it was this weird like kind of triangular shape, so I decided to actually draw out an alley and put down a little park just to give the people a little something something. And you know, I did keep most of the zoning to mixed use housing and also medium density, but I also, in small chunks where there was like a really tight space, I would sometimes put like just a few row homes just to keep things varied up a little bit. I wanted to create a path here, but the slope was so steep that I was like, you know what, screw it, and I created this crazy curved path that looks kind of like your lower intestine. But you know, whatever, it happens. Sometimes you just gotta go a little crazy. And some parts I saw the land was a bit crazy, so I used the ramp tool pretty liberally to make sure the paths weren't crazy, because you know, I don't want these paths to be like crazy 45-degree paths that you can like barely walk on. Oh my god forbid it snows, you're like falling off into the depths of hell if that happens. So I wanted to make sure the land was level every time I drew out a path, because you know, I gotta make this a nice walk. I don't want people dying just because the path is drawn out in a crazy way. It's not what I'm about. So yeah, I was able to create a bunch of cool connections, even up the hills sometimes, which was really fun. I took a look at the intersection and saw that it was already getting quite a bit of traffic, which made me a bit nervous. Especially because, you know, this district really isn't that busy yet. There isn't that much housing yet. So I was just thinking about how bad it's going to get when I do create more housing. So I may have to expand that intersection, but maybe not yet. Not yet. In this one chunk of land, I did actually end up using the high density commercial because I thought it'd be good to have just a small shopping area. And I just have this constant demand for commercial that I figured, well, hey, I'll just give them something, right? And, you know, I do like the way the buildings look. They don't look Parisian exactly, but, you know, it's okay to have a couple, I think. And I think the road layout speaks more to the Parisian-ness than the buildings anyways. I mean, the mixed-use buildings do look vaguely Parisian, but also, like, they don't have that look. You know what I mean? They don't have, like, the white, or, like, maybe not white, like the off-white, the cream-colored walls, and they don't have the blue roofs. Although, I did hear that there's going to be some creator packs of new assets sometime in the future. I don't know. I don't know about any of these City Skylines additions and mods and asset packs. It's also nebulous about when they're going to come out, but hopefully we can have access to that soon, and then maybe someday we can make this district even more Parisian. Then I saw that the people were very sad that they didn't have Wi-Fi, and so I unlocked the telecom tower, and I saw that I didn't have enough money for the telecom tower, so I took out more loans. Oh well. And then I reached Small City. Woohoo! We are at Small City, guys! Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? So that was really exciting. And, well, I didn't check this episode, but I will try to see next episode if I have unlocked enough tiles to access the sea. But with that, we have come to the end of the progress made in this episode. So with that, I would like to give you some cinematics to see the progress. Enjoy.